Hey, it's Christina with Tinagirl Travels. Today I'm going to take you on our shore excursion to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Let's go have a look. We sailed into Jeddah on the MSC Splendida. In this video, I'll be talking about the actual shore excursion that we took, but I'll also touch on the other shore excursions available to take. So even if you're sailing with a different cruise line, it's likely the same shore excursions you'll find on any ship docking for the day in Jeddah. I'll also answer some other questions you may have, like what kind of money to use, how to dress, and I'll tell you about the visa process. Aside from the shore excursion, Keith and I also like doing our own thing, so I'll share a bit about that as well. Our ship arrived early at 7:30 a.m. and we needed to be back on board by 8 p.m. But the ship was not set to sail until 10:30 p.m. and I'll talk a bit more on that in a minute. Let's have a quick look on Google Maps and see where Jeddah is located. This is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and right here on the Red Sea, you're going to find Jeddah. An hour and a half away, you'll find Mecca. And as I scroll in up here, you'll see where we flew into. So we came into a place called Hurghada, Egypt. We took a taxi down to Safaga and sailed out the next day. And our first stop was actually Aqaba, Jordan, where we went to Petra. And then we sailed down to Jeddah and up to Yanbu, Saudi Arabia, and then up and over to Cairo. And then finally finishing off again in Safaga, Egypt. If that sounded a little confusing, here we go from Safaga up to Aqaba, down to Jeddah, up to Yanbu, Saudi Arabia, over to Cairo, and back down to Safaga. This was actually a very unique cruise as you could start and end your cruise from any of the ports. The first thing you need to do once you get off the ship is to get on a shuttle bus that takes you from the ship over to the main Ports Authority building where you'll go through customs. One thing you're going to notice on this shore excursion day is all the people of the Muslim faith heading on to their pilgrimage to Mecca. The women will be dressed beautifully with their heads covered fully with a hijab, and the men will be dressed in simple white clothes called ihram. The border control was swift and efficient. The ship checked and double-checked that we had our multi-entry visa for Saudi Arabia before we ever arrived in this country. The border control guards were kind and happy to greet us. We were through in no time and sitting on our tour bus, ready to go. Saudi Arabia opened its doors for tourism for the first time in September of 2019. And guess what happened in early 2020? The pandemic. So they got off to a rough start, but slowly the visitors have come back and started to explore this very interesting and ancient kingdom. This tour that we are taking today was called Discovering the Corniche. Some of the other shore excursions available were Discover Old Jeddah. The tour offers the same bus ride down the Corniche and then over to Old Jeddah with a guided tour of that area. So our tour was the same but didn't have the guided tour. Then there's another tour. It's called Hijra UNESCO Site, Alula Ancient Town, and the Elephant Rock. This is a 12-hour excursion, and that's why the ship stays in port so late. This involves a plane ride both there and back. It wasn't cheap, ringing in at about $900 per person. Check out the distance here. You'll be flying from Jeddah to Alula, about an hour and 20 minutes each way. This tour looked amazing, and in hindsight, I kind of wish we had done this one. Next time we will. The next tour you may want to check into is the Beata Reef experience. The Red Sea has some of the best snorkeling in the world, and Beata Reef is considered the Maldives of Saudi Arabia. That's a 7-hour excursion and looks incredibly beautiful. Another thing you can do is you can take a coach to Mecca City. That's only for Muslims. The coach ride is about an hour and a half with a 3-hour stay in Mecca. Like I said earlier, our tour was called Discovering the Corniche. So we boarded a comfortable air-conditioned tour bus, which took us for a ride through town. This was very interesting. It was cool to see all the stores. Some stores we recognized and many we didn't. We saw several famous landmarks like the 37-floor Kings Road Tower, which interestingly contains the world's largest advertisement LED screen covering 10,000 square meters. I would love to see it all lit up at night. The roundabouts in the city are quite spectacular, and Jeddah is known for them. First, we saw the Globe Roundabout, which you'll find on King Abdul Aziz Road. It's made from glass and steel. It's lit up from the inside. Kind of interesting during the day for sure, but really you need to see this at night to get the full beauty of this sculpture. The next roundabout we saw was called the Four Lanterns. They're made to look like Mamluk mosque lamps. These are made of steel and glass, and they're also lit up from the inside, so you'll want to see this one at night if you can. You'll find these on Al-Andalus Street. After the Four Lanterns, we saw the famous flying carpet sculpture. This one is really interesting to look at. Now, keep in mind, it can be tricky sometimes to get photos because they're in the middle of traffic circles. So if you're getting on a tour bus, be sure to sit on the left-hand side of the bus so you get a good view of the traffic circles. The flying carpet is about a block away from the Shangri-La Hotel on the waterfront. This is a stunning 5-star luxury hotel with amazing views of the Red Sea, which brings us to the new Jeddah Corniche. Along the water, there are lots of restaurants and cafes, as well as a beautiful seaside walkway. The new Jeddah Corniche stretches over 30 kilometers and it's divided over 3 sections. An amazing waterfront promenade sitting right along the Red Sea. This iconic development has transformed the city's shoreline into a vibrant recreational and entertainment destination. The Corniche offers stunning views of the Red Sea with beautifully landscaped parks and palm-lined walkways like this right here and expansive cycling paths. Along the promenade, you'll see sculptures and fountains, and visitors can enjoy a wide range of activities, including jogging or picnicking or simply strolling along the promenade while enjoying the cool sea breeze. It gets so hot here, so you'll really enjoy that. You can also check out the sea life, like these cool crabs on the rocks. One thing I wish we had seen but didn't was the iconic Jeddah fountain. It shoots water 260 meters and is listed in the Guinness World Records as the highest water fountain in the world. Sadly, we didn't get very much time here at all. Probably only 20 minutes, which is what can happen when you take excursions. The timetables are often a little too tight. This is an area I would really have liked to spend more time and experience and explore. So after our all too short stop, we boarded the coach and headed over to historic Old Jeddah, where we got dropped off to explore on our own. Our tour had a guide who I'm going to let you listen to in a second, was very informative. She answered many of our questions and of course gave us a history lesson on the area. And I guess it was worth the $50 or so that we paid. But one thing you do need to be aware of is that part of this 3-hour tour is you walking around Old Jeddah on your own, and then an hour later being picked up and taken back to the ship. However, they did have buses circling back around about every half an hour, picking people up and taking them back to the ship. That went on till about 6 p.m. I think 6 p.m. was the last pickup. So once we got dropped off, we just let them know we were leaving the tour at this point and doing our own thing until that last bus. So Saudi Arabia is a bit of a mystery to the world, and I have a 1-minute clip here where our tour guide talks about women's rights and driving as women in Saudi Arabia. Here we go.
The countries are giving the money, the woman half of the salary of the man. Am I right? And no, here it's equal. We are the same in all rights. Women has the same rights of man. We don't have any distinguishes. We are the same. But for driving, as I said, it was, for me, I explain it as a protection. It was a protection for women. But now we are more open. We can do it. And it's choiceable also. If I want to be my driver and be a lady, I can do it. If I want to drive my car, I can do it. No one will stop. As I said it many times, I drive, yes. I have my own car and I drive. I think it's better and safer for me than using a driver from outside. But that doesn't...
It was very interesting to listen to our guide, especially a Saudi Arabian woman's perspective. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I have my own thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours, especially if you're a woman from Saudi Arabia. All right, let's get off the bus and have a look at the historic city of Jeddah. So we got dropped off in front of this gate, and I don't know how to pronounce it. But this is where the buses circled around to get back to the ship. There were also lots of taxis around, and I'll get to that part in a minute. As we wandered through these ancient streets, you can just feel the essence of the past. Old Jeddah, also known as Al Balad, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is renowned for its stunning architecture and traditional atmosphere. So take a look at these magnificent houses. They're known as coral houses because they were constructed using coral stones, wood, and plaster. It's fascinating to see how these structures have stood the test of time, and some of them haven't, and the city is working hard to restore these buildings to their former glory. One of the highlights of Old Jeddah is the vibrant market, or the souk. Let's step inside and see what kind of treasures we can find. Saudi Arabian dates are famous. They are a wonderful thing to bring home. These shops tend to be quite pricey, so shop around and don't worry, there are lots of them around. You can even buy dates at the grocery store. Make sure if you're in one of these shops that you sample first, and make sure the dates you buy come from the same bin as the one you just tasted. Just trust me on that one. The tins of dates are also a really good idea. The gold is impressive here too. Make sure though that you know your prices before you go in and buy anything here. The prices in some of the shops seemed reasonable, but remember, you are expected to bargain. My husband Keith really dislikes bargaining. He just pays them whatever they ask. Me, on the other hand, I'm always in it for the best deal. I walk away out of that shop victorious until later I feel guilty and I feel like I should have probably paid more money, but you know what? It's all part of the game. It literally is a game of bargaining. Many of the shops were closed on the day that we were there, maybe because of the time of day. We were there late morning on a Wednesday. So we could tell that Saudi Arabia is kind of new to the idea of tourist shopping. It was really hot, even in March, and it was really difficult to find anything to eat or drink. When I compared Jeddah to any other Middle Eastern city that we've been to, like Muscat, Oman, where there are freshly squeezed juice bars everywhere. As far as fruit goes, Saudi Arabia grows tons of dates and watermelons. And I'm telling you, I would have paid a lot of money for a glass of watermelon juice or a bottle of date milk. This is a picture of the date milk I bought in Aqaba, Jordan. I'm sure they must have it here in Saudi Arabia as well. It was probably the best drink I've ever had. So if you see it around anywhere, give it a try and let me know in the comments below what you think. One of the questions I had was, how should I dress? Remember, this is a country new to tourism, so you want to be respectful. Long pants or a long skirt and shoulders covered for women, and long pants and a shirt for men. T-shirts seem to be fine. I brought really thin cotton pants and a flowy type of blouse, and amazingly, it kept me cool. The Saudi women are dressed like this in public, and the men are generally dressed like this. Dressing the way I did was no problem in the tourist areas. I did wear a scarf covering on my head when we went to the mall, which brings me to the next part of our day. We decided to head to a mall, and if you've never been to a Middle Eastern mall, they are quite interesting places to visit. This is where the locals hang out, and remember, Saudi Arabia is hot. Going to the mall gets you out of that heat. I want to quickly talk about taxis. So we negotiated a taxi from the same area that we started out, right across the street from the buses to the ship. We tried to get an Uber, and Ubers are pretty new here in Saudi as well, so the wait times were very long. The ride from the city gate to Al Angeles Mall should cost you no more than $15. Take a picture of the gate and the street name so you can show your driver for the ride back. Let's quickly talk about money in Saudi. They were very happy to accept US dollars and euros for anything that needed to be paid for in cash. For everything else, we paid by credit card, not a problem. Most people spoke some English and many people spoke English very well. Here's Keith getting an Arabic lesson from our taxi driver.
ثلاثة 3 3 3
Honestly, everyone we met in Jeddah was really happy to meet us and very kind and helpful. So the first thing we did was head to the food court. And as you can see, they had a huge variety of choices here. I walked past a woman who had this sizzling, amazing dish, and somehow I was able to ask her where she got it from. Honestly, it was one of the best meals that we had on our entire trip. It had chicken and vegetables in a delicious sauce, and it came with this huge, freshly made flatbread.
So to give you an idea, this meal costs about $10 Canadian, about $7.50 US dollars. So, and it's absolutely delicious.
If you're not feeling that adventurous, give one of your favorite restaurants a try. Honestly, we always try McDonald's or Burger King when we're in a different country. They offer some really unique things on their menus. In Egypt, we had one of the biggest, baddest burgers you've ever seen at McDonald's. I'll show you that in my upcoming video on Hurghada, Egypt.
I'm doing my favorite thing in the world. I'm shopping in Saudi Arabia.
Oh my goodness. I was just in my happy place. It was so interesting to see the clothing styles, especially because you'll only see women dressed in an abaya, fully covered from head to toe. And I was really happy that I had a scarf with me. I know it's not required for me to cover my head, but I just felt like it was a respectful thing to do. A goal I had was to pick up a Starbucks mug, and this is not an easy mug to get your hands on. So it is a fun souvenir. If you come across a Starbucks, pick one up. You can only buy a Kingdom of Saudi Arabia mug in Saudi Arabia. Another funny thing we noticed here were the English sayings on t-shirts. They really made no sense. We saw them all over the place and they were quite funny to read. Here's an all-inclusive package for men. This is so cool. There's an entire wardrobe set in here. It includes a sword, a watch, cufflinks, a pen, a belt. Looks like a ceremonial robe at the bottom there. It even includes some kind of cologne or something. It's the full meal deal. Let's quickly talk about the visa process. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about visas for shore excursions arriving in Saudi Arabia by cruise ship. MSC sent out this email with a little obscure attachment down here in the corner. Honestly, I think they could upgrade their emails a little bit because this was a bit tricky. It's honestly a little confusing, and I'll try my best to untangle this process and get the details right. The ship gives you a link, visa.mofa.gov.sa, and this is what pops up. Of course, you can translate it to English, and once you choose the appropriate visitor's link, it really doesn't get any easier. It's still confusing. So I was on some of the chats, like on Cruise Critic. A lot of people were complaining about this website. They were complaining that they hadn't received their visa after many weeks. And I ended up using an entirely different site called visitsaudi.com, and I'll add a link below to that site. It was fast and easy to use. I had our visas in hand within 15 minutes. Now, I kept hearing different prices being thrown about. We ended up paying $180 US per person for a multiple entry visa valid for 1 year. But that did include the medical insurance portion that you must have as well. Honestly, I don't know the logistics of this process. I'm not sure if we got ours approved so fast because we're Canadians or what the deal is here. I feel like we paid a lot more than some other people, but who knows? Maybe they weren't including the mandatory medical insurance. Make sure your passport is valid for at least 6 months past your travel date. And to fill out the application process, you're going to need a passport type of photo of yourself. I literally did it myself using my cell phone and a plain background and my passport face. You'll submit it online, so the picture needs to be a digital one anyways. Get that visa process done before you leave home. I saw some very upset people on board the ship trying to get off in Jeddah, and they hadn't done the visa process. And at that point, it's just too late. So get it done at home before you leave. So after our trek to the mall, we caught another taxi back to the gate of the Old Town. So remember I told you to take a picture of it so you could show the taxi driver. It's not always easy to explain where you want to go. Again, it cost us another $15 US to get back. There's really no tipping here, so it was just flat $15 cash. The driver on the way back was hesitant to take our $15 US and would have preferred euros or Saudi reals. Another driver explained to the guy the exchange rate, and he finally took the money. Back at the gate, we waited for our bus to come and take us back to the ship. Honestly, there's so much more we could have done here, but we only had one day and really had no idea what to expect once we got off the ship. But next time, I might look into hiring a private driver for the day so we could explore the city at our own pace. Although I'll tell you about that in an upcoming video on our day trip to Cairo. That was very interesting. So I'll be posting a video on shopping in Saudi Arabia in the next few weeks, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on seeing that. I have some really cool videos coming up, including our tour of a Saudi Arabian grocery store, as well as the rest of our shore excursions on this sailing, including Yanbu, Saudi Arabia, Aqaba, Jordan, where we rented a car and drove to Petra, and like I said earlier, Cairo, where we hired a private guide and a driver, and that was an absolutely nutty day. Overall, we had an amazing day in Jeddah. I still can't believe we have been to Saudi Arabia. I actually thought that might be a country that we'll never see. We felt very safe, the people were kind, and I would love to go back for a longer visit. That being said, there are lots of travel advisories for Saudi Arabia, so be sure to check them out on your government sites, and I'll post the Canadian travel advisories below for you to have a look at. Just be kind, be respectful with your actions and your clothing choices and the words that you say. And remember that tourism is new to this country. I'm going to add a link below to our favorite anti-pickpocket crossbody bag and anti-theft day pack that we love traveling with. These bags are absolutely amazing. Be sure to click that subscribe button so you won't miss out on seeing all the videos I've mentioned earlier. And feel free to let me know where you're watching from on this great, big, beautiful globe. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. I hope I was able to help you out today. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time on Tinagirl Travels.